I used to play with the idea of atheism until I was in my 30s. I did believe in God and I didn't believe in God. It was quite confusing. Now I understand that in most cases I use my intelligence to justify my impulses, to justify my biology, because it was simpler this way. You want something and you just find reasoning that's sound to have it. And it's not good. And there was God, I think, within me even when I was younger, because I read Dostoevsky when I was pretty young, and I understood and I misunderstood him. It was a strange relationship because I didn't have this deepness that I have now throughout the years that I developed, because life, I think, comes with experience that you slowly accumulate throughout the years. And what exactly the atheist intellect, and why atheist intellect use intelligence to justify biology? Atheist intellect. I'm not saying that intellect is bad or good. I'm saying that intellect or intelligence just a tool that helps you justify or fight certain impulses. And when we're young, we usually use intelligence to justify our impulses, or we just ignore intelligence completely since we are too biological. And what is the right way? What is the wrong way? When the years went by, I understood something, that I have to fight my impulses, because my impulses were stopping me from understanding something really meaningful about this world and about life in general. Life is not biology, and it's not only biology, it's something more. And atheism itself, I have respect for people like Christopher Hitchens. I've read almost all his books and I still have respect for him, and sometimes read some of his work, because I try to understand myself from a both dual position. I don't feel threatened by atheism now, but I try to understand, and I think atheism now brings more bad than good. And I don't think it's a good idea to disregard God as something irrelevant, especially right now, and especially when you come to such an age, you have to make a peace with yourself. I really don't know how you can fight your impulses now without having faith in God. And what I think happens is, when you were young, your impulses weren't your addictions. They didn't misdirect your path. You could combine your path of impulses and your path of life, kind of the same, kind of parallel. But when you get older, those impulses grow with you and they turn into addiction and they grip you. And how you can defend them, how you can defeat them if you atheist, how you can find justification in atheism, because if you're physically pretty strong and if you can balance on the edge, why not to continue? But there's something about atheism, and there's something about these addictions, that you're losing some part of something meaningful about yourself. It's really hard to describe, because I'm still struggling to articulate what exactly would you lose, because it's really easy to justify everything when you have no God in your life. And it's really like, if it's not bad, like bad, because it seems like when you have no God, there's far few bad things in your life, and you can accept pretty much everything without understanding that everything, like, there's certain things that corrupts you. You cannot avoid them. They're part of this corruption, and this corruption grows slowly within you. The cross on the wall that I have in my bedroom, it symbolizes something about light, something that helps me not to be completely lonely when I have the darkest moment within and without me. It helps me to say prayer and helps me to practice saying prayer. I learned something recently that everything about us is our practice. And the way you practice, the way you live. You have to practice goodness, and you of course can practice badness as well. And when you justify your impulses with your intellect and try to keep propagating them across your life, you become weaker. And then eventually, what exactly would you become when you get older? Even if your addictions, for example, doesn't put you in grave, but they still be there and still makes you weak. I saw people who's incredibly weak mentally. They are physically strong, but mentally they are incredibly weak, and they're afraid to take a stand because they try to appease to things just to keep their comfort. Atheism doesn't make you comfortable. Atheism, you have to be incredibly intelligent to be able to be brave when you're atheist. You have to be like Christopher Hitchens, who was incredibly high-level intellectuals. There's not many people like him. And when people adapt atheism, I don't think they adapt atheism from the position of intelligence, to read a lot, to write a lot, to understand about yourself a lot. I think they adapt atheism out of laziness. That's exactly what I did, because you kind of can negotiate with yourself constantly. You do something that you're not supposed to do, and you then negotiate with yourself. It's fine because, who cares? I didn't kill nobody, right? And I didn't do nothing too bad. My point is, you can be atheist, but you have to be incredibly intelligent about it. And even still, it's affect you in some sense. But can you use your intelligence to justify your faith in God? Can you use reasoning to justify your faith in God? I think you can, because you can turn those reasoning on your corruption and try to destroy this corruption within yourself with your reasoning. I don't believe that it's a good thing to suppress your addictions, because I saw people who suppressed their addiction, like alcoholism, and they became cowards. They were terrified of their own shadows because they knew that slight imbalance within them that can manifest in their life can throw them back into their addictions. My point is, to be able to defeat addictions, you have to be able to train yourself through practice to face it every single day and not to act upon it. Once you do this, you actually can create out of your addiction your lie, because this energy within you that wants it can be directed, can be channeled towards something productive. It's like a monster that you chain and then use it for attack on certain things, because your mind getting clearer when you train yourself not to practice bad things within you, and you feel braver because addictions make you feel weak. And impulses, when you act upon your impulses, you don't think, and your animal act, not you, not your observer. And I think when you act upon your impulses without thinking, that's what usually happens. You become more coward, because in some sense you're not in control of your biology. And it's really hard to live when you're not in control of your biology. How you can plan something, how you can understand yourself if any time your biology can destroy you, can make a hell out of your life through certain actions that you might regret the very next moment you make them. And that's why you have to be very careful. And I remember myself, because I play with this idea of atheism, and I read a lot of books where atheism was justifiable. I read Voltaire. I really respect Voltaire. I still do, because I think he's an incredibly great mind. And again, I told before that I respect Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins in some sense, Sam Harris and Daniel Dennett. I read their work as well. I like to understand their point of view. And their point of view is fair, but what is not fair is the way like how some of them took a stand. Because you have to be very, very intelligent to be able to survive properly while being an atheist. Religion gives you such a simplified version of how to make a proper sacrifice. Not every one of us want to read philosophy, want to go deep in understanding of yourself and what is good and what is evil. It's really hard and it's really complicated. But religion gives you this feeling what is right and what is wrong. And even it's funny because I'm trying to argue if you can use intelligence to reason against your biology. And it's really hard because how you can reason against your biology since you are biology? In some sense, you have to reason against yourself. But how can you do this? And I think it's partially possible and partially impossible because you have to have higher goal in your life. And can you have higher goal in your life if you don't have faith in God? That's not a good question, because how you can reason? You have to reason for something or for someone, because you have to understand the idea of proper sacrifice. And I don't think if you don't believe in God, you can have proper sacrifice. And if you believe in God, this proper sacrifice should become part of your nature through practice that you do daily, like through prayers, through certain rituals that helps you to understand your position in this world. And you can, I think, use intelligence to argue, to reason yourself away from your addictions, away from your corruption and toward God. But at the same time, faith in God is faith. It's faith in something that you cannot prove. And that's, I think, what makes faith in God unique. This ability to believe in something that you cannot touch, that you cannot test, and that you cannot prove. And once you have this faith in God, you have such a faith in yourself. And another thing, when you do something complicated and when you stuck in something, you kind of develop this idea that everything in God's hands. In some sense, you take the burden of the entire world and you are able to share it with God, because you don't have to solve all the problems of the world, and you cannot solve all the problems of the world. But what you can do, you can select such a piece, such a part, and try to work on it. In some sense, the Christianity in the West was misrepresented by many people, especially atheists, who simplified, because they simplify atheism itself too. Because if you think about atheism, I don't think it's like intellectual thing right now. I think it's more corruption when people celebrate freedom by having multiple partners, by treating your biology as fair ground, without respect for themselves and for their cultural traditions. And I think I think we should come back to Christianity, to the idea of God, and to start practicing our religion, our faith, is because it's the only way for us not to go back and become animals completely. There's such a line we shouldn't cross. And I think we crossed many, many times this line before. And we should be very careful not to do it again and again, because in some sense, if you practice bad things, the bad things become part of you and you stop discriminating. And the most important thing I think about faith is to be able to believe in something that you cannot prove, to have this faith in impossible. And this faith in impossible will make your meaning in life possible. And I don't think you can find meaning without it. We're complicated beings, and not many of us have intelligence and the ability to utilize properly this intelligence. Most of us busy just working every day and try to survive. And this idea of God within us helps us to take a proper stand through the hierarchy of our personal values that we have to propagate across our life. We need this hierarchy of values. We need to know what not to do. And it doesn't matter how effectively you can justify with your intelligence and reasoning that certain things you can do. There are certain things we shouldn't do because we don't understand so many things about ourselves. And since we don't understand them, we shouldn't play with them. We should just leave them alone. There's a bunch of monsters within us, and we don't understand them. We don't know why we have what we have. And this constant fight between biology and the observer, this your mind or your soul, you can tell, it's really important. And important because if you control your biology, if you discipline your biology, there's something good happen to you. I can tell that because I feel it, because when I try to control, when I try to subjugate completely my biology to my observer, I see the world much more clearly, and I understand the world much more clearly. There's such a clarity, almost transcendent clarity, that it's fascinating, and you become braver. And once you become braver, you're able to explore more things that you were terrified of exploring before. As I already said, faith in God, it's faith in impossible that make your life filled with the impossible meaning, that with the meaning that we all thrive for. Because what is our life without meaning? Just existence till the day we die. But once you discover the idea of God, the faith in this impossible, and this faith in impossibility gives you such an amount of courage that helps you to make one step at a time towards something bigger and more important than you are.